Hey everyone. Welcome to another
Woo.
Well webinar.
Yeah, we
We
got some
have
people in here right
myself,
now.
7 people starting to trickle in. Um, Hope everyone's having an amazing hump day as Hump Well Day in Triple Well fashion. So,
That's right.
Logan, how are you?
Doing great, man. Thanks for asking. All right, for all the peeps joining too, let's use chat for normal fodder. And then there's a questions bubble down there where you can actually ask us questions and we'll live answer them here in a bit after we go over the pixel. But they can be pixel related or general triple well questions. So we look forward to seeing those.
Love it. Yeah, great reminder. Cool. Well, while we're waiting for everyone, in typical webinar fashion, like we've been doing, having a new release and a new launch every single week. Logan, since you were the product manager for this one, why don't you talk to us about yesterday's amazing release?
Yeah, thanks for teeing it up. So for anybody who is a customer right now, we just launched a new free post-purchase survey feature. And if you log into the app, click on Insights in the left-hand panel, you'll see post-purchase survey. So just click Get Started. If you don't make any changes to the survey out of the box, it's like one click. You can add it to your website and start gathering data right away, which is great. If you're not in Triple L yet, it's free for the basic plan. So it's great if you have the Pixel. It actually works really well with the Pixel and attribution, which we can talk about, in the webinar here. But yeah, free post-purchase survey tool, which is a great way to build data sets on your customers and understand where they feel like they found out about you before they purchased. Um, and so, yeah, it's free, which is great. So go check it out, please.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's an incredible way for us just to add another data point to the attribution story with zero-party data. So a nice pop-up that's integrated into your checkout when someone purchases, pops up with a little survey that you can customize, add any additional questions you want for customers just to tell you what was either most impactful or where they what they saw most recently to purchase. So, once again, attribution isn't a silver bullet. We'll talk a little bit about that today. Um, and that's, we have a lot of different attribution windows and things like that to just really better understand the story. And so now we're taking our amazing first party data, which is from our Pixel, and adding zero party data to just help you all understand what's influencing customers to purchase, so you can pull the levers more efficiently and better and scale and grow. So I love it.
Yeah.
It's honestly an amazing product, one that I'm super excited about, that I just think very low barrier to entry to get it started. So it's awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'll start this answer really quick just because we're on the topic. I do think it's an amazing tool we actually realize that a lot of our customers don't use any post-purchase survey. But I honestly think it's a really low barrier and not very intrusive way to ask customers this question about where they found out about you. And it's a great like view through attribution, because if you have customers who are maybe seeing your ad across TikTok, Pinterest, Facebook, but they're going the route of like directly hitting your site or going through maybe even a Google shopping ad or something, this is a great way to tie it back to the original view or impression, at least from their eyes. So, and then I've got a question from Brendan. So, changing the questions and answers is coming. The first thing we wanted to really do with this feature was to tie it back to attribution. The reason you can't just edit all your questions right now is because they're directly tied to those channels. And so that way we can keep everything very static and basic so that those answers are the same across every customer and the coding, I guess, works. In the future, when we start adding new options, we're going to have to also create a way to map it. And so it's a little more detailed than just offering you the ability to throw in any response you want. Our goal is to take that response and then use it for attribution. So yeah, that is the goal, coming soon. But hopefully, I'll be sharing a roadmap for that feature soon as well. All right, so we got a couple people in the chat. That's cool. I bought from Supply Co. and saw the survey. Was wondering what they were using to do. Yeah. Yeah, right. So it's really just there to like help understand like what is the from the customer's point of view, where are they feeling like what had the most impact and led them to their purchase. Our survey is a little different than some others. Like some other surveys will do like how did you hear about us? We specifically led by the question that says which of the following led you to purchase today, and that's so that you can get like attribution, like most recent attribution, almost like last click rather than first click or first impression. But of course, the customer can interpret either of those designs the way they want. Um, but it's good to have. You should be expecting almost like a 30% response rate there. Um, Robin voice. All right, Saunders. So you think we're ready to kick off and do Pixel? Talk more about
Yeah,
it.
let's jump in.
All right.
So yeah, I'm actually in Columbus. Was just with Raba this morning. He actually is leaving for the airport right now, so he won't be joining us today. So we'll miss him, Rice, and his lovely voices and Raba isms and everything that he brings to the table there. So yeah, we're excited today to talk about our Pixel, and there's no one better to have here than Logan, who is a product manager that works very, very closely with the Pixel and making that better. So excited to have you here, Logan. Before we
Thanks.
dive in into the actual like Pixel section within Triplewell, why don't you give us a quick background on what's different about the Triple Pixel compared to Facebook's Pixel, Google's Pixel, any other Pixel that's out there from an ad platform standpoint?
Yeah, for sure. So I know that most people who are listening, this may be duplication of knowledge you already have. So I'll try to keep it somewhat overview so that we can kind of get into the nitty gritty as well. But I think most of you, if you've been in the game for long enough, you know that when attribution from the platform felt somewhat trustworthy and it was good, meaning they would report a lot of revenue back to you. ROAS looked great and conversion value looked great. One of the things I struggled with is that I would look at Google and Facebook and Postscript and Klaviyo. And if you combined all of the revenue that they attributed back to my store, it was more money than I made in my Shopify account. And so I think at the very basic level, one great thing about attribution is that based on your model, last click, first click, triple attribution, you kind of have more control and decision making over who gets credit for what. So we do that with triple attribution where any platform itself gets credit, but then you can choose linear or last click or first click to truly understand, was this in the last interaction? Did someone really click Facebook, or did Facebook have a view through conversion? Did that customer click on Facebook and then go to Google at a later date? Those things everyone was kind of blind to before. And so with our camera system, essentially imagine if you ever driven on those annoying streets in like New Orleans and other cities where they'll get you in speed traps. I mean, we are a camera system like that, and the street is your store. Cars are coming by, and we're identifying whether they're Nissans or some sweet F1 car, and we know how fast they're going, and we know where they came from, right? So that's essentially what the Pixel's doing, and we're trying to improve or at least give you an extra layer of data on top of what the platforms are reporting, so that you can keep them in check and also kind of understand where am I going to put my next dollar, what matters most to my brand right now. So yeah, I think that's the overview of why you'd want to use the Pixel, and generally the benefits there. And I think everyone kind of already knows about iOS and issues with these platforms receiving data back from the sites due to privacy restrictions. So because we're somewhat of a third party gathering first party data on your behalf, we don't have to adhere to those restrictions exactly because we're not sharing that data back with anyone in some sort of egregious way.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to add, Logan. I think that's a great point. Since we're a third party, we don't have any incentives to over report on where revenue is coming from. We'll just give you the raw data and let you do with it as you please. And for some customers, that raw data is less than what Facebook or Google might be reporting, and in other cases, we'll show you more. So I think we'll dive into some specifics here on how to best optimize campaigns using the Pixel data and the platform data and things like that. But yeah, great overview. Thanks, Logan.
Yeah, for sure. All right, I can share my screen and kind of take you guys through the product here. Sorry, it's going to look wild for just a moment. Or I'll do a window and yep. Cool. All right, so everybody can hopefully see our summary screen. Small plug for benchmarks. If you haven't installed this on your Triple Whale yet, please hit the cog, customize your summary, and add those benchmarks here. These are amazing, by the way. That'll also help with your media buying and attribution. So let's hop into the pixel really quick and kind of talk through different pages. I want to talk through the pages, the models, and some of the columns and how to interpret the data. So one thing that I want to go over too as we get started is like UTM tracking. So for us, just so everybody understands how this camera works, like I said about the car analogy, we're seeing Nissans come through and we know how fast they're going and what tires they're using, that kind of thing. We can see all the traffic coming to your site. But because we have direct integrations with things like Facebook ads, Google ads, Pinterest, etc., we also are pulling in through those APIs all of the campaign, ad set, and ad data. And so we use UTMs more so of like a matching opportunity because we can see that the traffic's coming from Facebook, but we're not exactly sure who's in the driver's seat, right? And that's the ad that you're trying to get attribution to down the road. So it's very important that everyone set up their UTMs properly. For Facebook, it's pretty easy. Make sure your destination links are clean, meaning it's just the URL. And then you're using the URL parameters box on those ads to place in our dynamic UTM variables. And then as long as they're installed on every single ad, we'll be tracking it. For something like Google, it's a little more in depth. We suggest putting our UTMs at the campaign, ad group, and ads even deeper on like the product level if you have those settings for your smart shopping. But yeah, as long as you have these in place, everything's going to go swimmingly and smoothly. So now that we've got UTMs and that kind of tracking out of the way, let's talk about the all page, and then we'll kind of dig deeper down so that you guys can understand. I'm sure most of you are either using it all the time and have questions about how to use it deeper, or you haven't seen this before. So here in the all page, what we have are all of our sources, which are essentially like channels. This is similar to maybe Google Analytics source medium report. However, we have kind of default channel groupings if you're familiar with how Google Analytics does that. So in this case, we've got Facebook, organic, Google, all of the ones that we natively integrate with. And then these are other sources that we've picked up on. If you see something like YouTube, IG shopping, this means that we've tracked traffic from that source, but it's not directly related to an ad campaign. So we may have noticed that we have traffic from YouTube, but there's no UTMs attached. So to us, that's more of like a referral or organic traffic. And so, we've labeled this YouTube out here. IG shopping is a similar situation where it's not an ad, but they're coming from the IG shopping channel. Now let's talk about columns sorting. Any column you see here can be sorted, right? So if I want to see by spend, which is probably not the best view on the all page, but will look great on the ads page, which I'll show you. You could sort by return on ad spend, right? Orders or conversion value. Typically, I sort by conversion value or spend, but on the all page, I would almost always go conversion value so you can see which channels or sources are bringing in the most value to the brand. The other thing that is a small hack and something I would recommend on the all page is linear all. So before I click on linear all, I want everyone to know that there is, with triple attribution, we're giving credit to an order, a single order, single conversion value to any channel or source that also had a touch point prior to that order being placed. And so an easy example is if there's one order for $100 that clicked on Facebook and clicked on a Google ad, in this view for triple attribution, that $100 and single order will be listed here for Facebook, here, and for Google here. So if those were the only two sources that were showing on this page, you would actually see two orders for $200, although your store only made 100. This is specifically because when viewing the pixel at a channel basis, on a channel level, you can understand how much true and real value that channel brought to you. without having to worry about any random attribution like last click or first click, which are also available. But in general, we found our customers want to know how much value came from customers who clicked on a Facebook ad, plain and simple. So that's what we do. Now, for linear all, what we've done is taken that same single order for $100, and we've split it equally amongst the channels that had a touch point before the order was placed. So in that example I gave earlier, where the customer clicked on a Facebook ad and a Google ad, it's actually like half an order here and half an order here, with $50 conversion value on Google and $50 of conversion value on Facebook. And this gets split amongst any real channel or source that has a touch point in linear all. The reason we built linear all as well is this is the true sum of the conversion value that we tracked for your store. So at any point in time, if you're trying to understand how much revenue was tracked by Triple Whale, come to your all page, use linear all, and compare this to the Shopify sales in your summary page. I typically see our brands doing around 90+% of revenue being tracked. There's almost always 5 to 10% coming direct to the site, like someone typing it in, typing in your website. Another version of direct to is like, let's say you've ever shared a website with your friend via text. The SMS is not going to come through as a source or referral path. So that can be direct traffic as well. But you should be shooting for around 90%. So if you're not seeing 90% of revenue being tracked here compared to your summary page for any given period of time, we need to try to figure out what other sources or places are you sending traffic from that we should be tracking. Because if the UTM sources aren't set up the right way, or we don't have tracking or tracking set up incorrectly or through another third party, that can throw off how data is displayed here. So one thing I want to make sure of is that we answer questions.
Okay. You're good. I'll keep an eye on that, Logan. I would just add to that as well. Yeah, we're obviously not getting any direct data because there really is no data to really get from there, or any, like iMessage isn't passing on any kind of UTM parameters organically, right? We don't have a integration. I don't really know anyone who really does into Google and their search platform, right? And so we're not getting any search data that way. Our Pixel is able to track 99.7% of all clickable purchases that do have UTMs appended to them. And so that's, there are going to be gaps in what we're able to track, but anything that we can add UTMs to or comes from a clickable source that automatically adds UTMs, we will be able to track purchases coming from those. And that's everything that you're seeing that Logan just went through that source column on the left. So there is an ad spend associated there because we're not tracking anything from those types of sources. So just wanted to, I guess, paint some color there.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. And appreciate that. And yeah, even more, some additions to that, just to some findings recently, just through some of my own testing. It's worth noting that we do track referral traffic, meaning let's say someone comes from Facebook, but it's not tagged with UTMs. I've seen it on multiple occasions where we're tracking that pretty accurately back to Facebook as the referral. What can happen is that if someone shares an ad in their messenger or with a friend on Facebook, or basically through Messenger, or they just click the share link and grab it, that ad is no longer an ad. So Facebook basically strips the UTMs out of it. And so there are times there where we're going to get Facebook as a refer, but you're not going to have the UTMs appended. It's hard to say what percent or how often that's happening, but for anybody who's doing that on their own, who've shared an ad before with a friend or spouse or something, that's one area where tracking is tracked, but maybe not necessarily back to the ad.
Yeah, great feedback. We do have one question. I'll put that up here so you can answer it, Logan.
Yes. It's not Triple Whale UTMs necessarily. We do have one tracking parameter that's custom that we ask you to add. But yes, so if you're in Klaviyo, go to your settings and then UTM settings. the two things that I request you do, because I think this is an issue with Klaviyo, but I'll explain further. Make sure your source, it should be the first line in your UTM settings, is set to Klaviyo. I see some customers setting that as the list or the segment. I could understand the rationale for that, but I think it's always best to use source as the channel or the source itself rather than a list or a segment, especially if you're using multiple lists or segments in your sends. So I would set the source to Klaviyo, and then there's also a triple source. It's actually a custom parameter we ask you to type in. So it's triple source equals Klaviyo. That's like a backup. But I've seen multiple times where Klaviyo is not appending our backup parameter to flows. And I'm not sure if that's due to the fact that flows are built before those tracking parameter settings are made, and therefore they're not retroactively adding them. But just a heads up, if you have UTM source equals Klaviyo, there shouldn't be a problem as long as you have your campaign parameters set as campaign name, flow name, that whole deal.
And I just threw a link as well where we have that within TripleWell, so you can see all the documentation there. So there's a link you can click there. Just click on Klaviyo and it will show up there with all the instructions.
Yep. Very good. Okay, great. So while I'm on this screen, let's talk about columns for a second, and then we can roll those columns into some of the specific channels. And then I'll talk a bit more about attribution models and event date, click date. I've talked to so many customers who didn't know that we had a column selector. So on all the pixel pages in the top right corner, you can click this kind of accordion icon to populate all the columns that we make available, which are a lot. So I would implore you to kind of add all of them or some of them in variations just to understand what data points you have available to you. But some of my favorites specifically are triple new customer cost per acquisition. So that's going to take the new customer metric, number of orders that were new customers, and the ad spend for a specific channel or ad, and blend them together to make a cost per acquisition metric. This was always really important for me to understand how a platform was performing and like overall how blended ads were performing. So we'll add that guy. We can also add new customer ROAS, which is kind of another way of looking at CPA versus spend. And let's see, we need to do orders overlap, which I'll discuss, which is great. Sonder, what are some ones that you look at that would be some of your favorites?
Yeah. I know you added the ROAS one, but I usually like to do new customer revenue as well. Obviously, that's going to be the division of that, right? But
yeah.
So you've got that one. I also like the AOV, new customer AOV. So that one.
You typically see a lot of variance in your new customer AOV versus general AOV. It's a good comparison to have for sure.
Yeah, typically not a crazy amount, but for me, it's important to understand more on my acquisition campaigns, what the average order value is there, and maybe I'm getting a more high value audience there, so that's why I like to just add that.
Yeah,
I think you got most of it. You can obviously add leading indicators, but where I think Pixel is best is more on those lagging indicators. So yeah, I think that's probably what I add. You mentioned order overlap. That's probably one of the ones I use the most. So I'm glad you added that one.
Yeah, and I'll that'll come way more in handy as we look at the ad channels together or a specific ad channel, which is great. And as Sonder was alluding to, you can just kind of compare AOVs to new customer AOVs here, which is kind of interesting that almost across the board here, we're seeing a bit higher almost for new customer AOV, which is cool. So, and then comparing like your blended ROAS to new customer ROAS is, I think, an easy way to tell if your ad dollars are being spent on new customers versus old customers, or returning rather than old, which is great. So now that we've got columns selected, again, I would go through and try to add a variety of these to your view, just so you can figure out what's best for you. And then once you've set it, that's kind of set for your user within Triple Whale. So every time you revisit, it should kind of be saved, which is great. All right, cool. Let's go back to triple attribution for a minute. And then let's hop into Facebook, because everybody loves Facebook. This is actually like our number one visited page within attribution, which I'm sure most people aren't surprised, but by leaps and bounds, the Facebook page here is viewed all the time. So again, like I mentioned earlier, I normally like to sort by spend. Most of you understand that you're probably spending either the most in a prospecting or test campaign, but you can also sort this by ROAS, conversion value, you name it. And before I get kind of deep into any of the data points, I do want to stress something that we hear some confusion about amongst customers, is that triple attribution and triple attribution plus views. Today, the view data that comes through in triple attribution plus views is reported on by the Facebook API. You can have triple attribution plus views selected as you navigate between Google, Pinterest, any of the other channels, but this view through conversion value is only available and is only going to affect Facebook. I'll try to show you an example here, so if I don't get egg on my face. But when I have triple attribution plus views selected and I select one of these campaigns, you should see a line here for view data. And this is the amount of revenue out of the 11,619 that Facebook sent us as the view through conversion value. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that that is not a Triple Whale data point, but it's something that was eliminated from the Facebook ads dashboard that we could actually pull from the API and found that it could bring value to our customers. So if that's something, if you've been in the ad game for a long time and you've kind of missed that piece, you can get it from Triple Whale here. We'll pull it through the API for you. And then of course, toggling between these two will show you the variance in conversion value between what Triple Whale caught and then what Triple Whale caught plus the view data from Facebook.
Yeah, and the reason why we have it in a column like that is, it's not like a two-way API where we're able to say, here's the customers we have who have purchased, who are you seeing as Facebook users, Facebook who have purchased as view data. So that's why we group it there. So very helpful to see really what Facebook is reporting as view data, especially if you see a pretty big delta between Facebook ROAS and triple ROAS. So that's how I like to use it, is just seeing what that delta and difference is between both. And I think it can be helpful too when you're looking at ad level. I tend to see higher view data when it comes to video view assets or retargeting assets. So I think it's, once again, just like a good data point to see what people are seeing an ad and, maybe leading to an influence. And going back to what we started with zero party data and our new post-purchase survey, I think that can also be a very helpful data point there. If someone does, say Facebook in the survey, and down the road, maybe if we add different options there, I think it's very helpful as another data point.
Yeah, great context for sure. All right, so as we spoke about earlier, let's make sure we have our table kind of squared away for all the metrics we like. So some of the ones that we need to add here are new customer ROAS, new customer revenue. We're going to do average order value and new customer AOV. And of course, you can always kind of move these around to what suits you. But once you have your table set, click done, and this should save it for you the next time you visit Triple Whale. So I'll let Sonder talk about this too. I'll kind of go over where I look into the data and then make decisions. And then Sonder can probably give some further context from his media buying days. But for me, and by the way, I used to be a Triple Whale user before I worked here. For me, what I would try to do is find the largest variances between what the platform was reporting and what Triple Whale was reporting. Because I think all of us understand that there is, like, view through attribution's real. And so as Sonder alluded to earlier, we're tracking 99.7% of clickable purchases, but which can lead to maybe our return on ad spend looking lower than Facebook, as you can kind of see on your screen here. But on a click basis, I kind of knew that if I could get as close to a 1 return on ad spend on a pure click basis like we have, that was a solid campaign ad set or ad for me. And it meant I should probably press forward. If I was seeing that Facebook was reporting something extremely wildly lower or higher, that's where I would even dig deeper into the audience segmentation, which would be my ad set level, or what my creative was and my offers on the ad level. And then you have to decide for your brand and your company some of the downstream stats like new customer cost per acquisition and new customer AOV. Am I upside down on these orders or on these customers as I'm acquiring them? Or are they at a level that it's tolerable for me? A lot of you probably understand this piece of media buying and owning a business, but some of you are in a growth stage where you'll acquire customers at maybe a loss on the first order because maybe you understand that that customer is likely to come back on subscription or for another purchase within 30 days or 60 days. And that is where you're going to make up your margin. Others of you need to be profitable on day one for every customer on a blended basis at least, because otherwise you're going out of business because you can't buy more inventory and put money back into ads and scale your company. So that's where I would come into Triple Whale and review some of the new customer cost per acquisition, your general CPA, how many added cards are you getting compared to orders, right? So in this stage, we're looking at the last 7 days. There's a lot of added cards here. There's a lot of opportunity for those folks to convert in the near future. And then just looking at the revenue and the AOV and how it's impacting your business. So in any case, that's where I'm looking at largest variances and trying to make decisions on targeting and creative to improve my position.
Yeah, love that. I think, follow a very similar methodology. For me, I like to set benchmarks both for platform ROAS as well as for the pixel ROAS. And those benchmarks are either telling me to pause and to document my learnings or to scale and grow more. And so that's what I'm looking for, back to like the delta or variances between Facebook ROAS and pixel ROAS. I think it's good to have different benchmarks for both, just because they are tracking both. And I think using them as data sets. Now, if I were to weight them, I definitely put a lot more weight behind the triple pixel and the ROAS we're reporting there because it is on clickable purchases. And so, yeah, I think that's exactly how I'm scaling it, is how I would scale it. Before we had the triple pixel and relying on Facebook, it's now just using the triple pixel as the dominant source to be able to scale and grow those ads. And to Logan's point, you might have a lower benchmark for the triple pixel since it is on clickable purchases than you would on the Facebook. And then what I'm doing, like Logan also mentioned, is I'm looking at my new customer CPA as well as my new customer AOV, which is then going to give me my new customer ROAS. And so that's helping me understand, what am I acquiring new customers for? What is the AOV on these new customers? And then obviously ROAS would be the division of those. And so as I'm looking here, I'm also looking at what campaigns have the highest new customer ROAS. So they might have a lower ROAS overall on the triple pixel, but they might have a higher new customer ROAS. And so especially when it comes to acquisition campaigns, that's what I'm looking at. So you can see, looks like there's one there that's at like a 1.13. Looking over, it's at a 1.58. So, that looks like a pretty awesome campaign. I'm trying to look at the conversion value there. So 320. Yeah. So you might want to, just in anything, if you're not getting the data you want here at 7 days, like, okay, this is only 7 orders, not a ton of data, then, that's probably when I open it up 2 weeks to see if I can bring in any more data, see how that affects ROAS, if it, was better than or maybe a little bit lower, then it's like, okay, this is probably a good ad for me to be scaling, good ad set to keep investing in. So that's kind of how my workflow would work when looking to scale using this pixel page. Or pausing, I think you would go then the inverse, things that aren't performing well, have a low ROAS, have a low new customer ROAS. So yeah, that's how I like to use this data in these columns. And then we didn't touch a lot on the order overlap here, but I think for me that would probably maybe be like the next leading indicator to look at to see how my other channels are also influencing the specific campaign. So it could be, you could see some additional Facebook order overlap here, or Google. So it kind of just gives you like that holistic view of other channels that are influencing the purchase. So yeah, maybe scroll over there. So yeah, so then I hover over the actual orders there to see what is influencing the purchases on this. And so if I'm seeing like Facebook within here, then I know, all right, that could be coming from a different Facebook retargeting campaign that's influencing that, or different
they're simply getting
organic things
targeted
on
twice.
Facebook.
I mean, yeah, the audience segmentation is a tough thing these days, right? It's like you can see in this account, like they're splitting up the demos by age groups, and you're kind of taking it on Facebook's data that you can get these right. And so depending on the overlap of your audiences, you could be targeting the same person twice in two different ad sets. So in this case, this is not like crazy egregious. Like Facebook and Instagram are showing like maybe 5% combined with orders overlap. Where something like Attentive, you would definitely expect that because they're coming to the site and signing up for whatever your offer is. And same with Klaviyo. So it actually looks like the SMS program is working better in this case, which is great. But yeah, orders overlap can be really good. Just so everybody knows, like 22 means the number of orders compared to the number of orders that we attributed. So there's 100 here. 22 divided by 100 is the 22%. So it's not based on revenue or conversion value. It's based on the number of orders that have overlapping attribution. And that's available only with triple attribution. Because as I mentioned earlier, to take it all back, we're giving credit to any source or channel that also had a touch point in the order. And yeah, I think just kind of digging deeper before I go into the survey stuff and some of the zero party data here is that the one thing that I feel like we talk most about with our customers when we do have one-on-ones is like the consolidation or cutting, because you are kind of relying on Facebook to push that spend, right? Let's say you have a budget set or you're doing CBO. There's a set allocation. And if you're seeing ads that are underperforming on both platforms, like, so if this was considered underperforming, like maybe that's worth cutting. Does this ad also have a specific style? And is that style kind of, I hate to say losing, but is that style of ad or that offer, is that losing in multiple ad sets if you have that ad in multiple ad sets? And that's also why we built the Creative Cockpit, which we don't have to get into today. I think we have another video on that you can watch on YouTube, but we're building features on top of other features so that you can drill deeper into your data as you see fit. But Sandra, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is kind of where I would think about consolidation, cutting spend or cutting ads out so that spend can be redirected to the winners that we've identified through Facebook and Triple Whale.
Yep, 100%, most definitely. Yep, that's exactly what I'm doing, consolidating and moving things around and moving audiences that are performing well potentially into other campaigns. I mean, you can even see the ads here as well. You don't need to just go within Creative Cockpit. So if there are some things, I mean, it's only going to show you thumbnails, so it's not obviously the greatest there, but yeah, you can see that below. So yeah, that's exactly how I'm thinking about it, Logan, is moving what's working and testing it into other stages of the funnel within other audiences. So yeah, you nailed it.
Cool. All right. So one thing that I told you guys I would talk about was event date versus click date. So I want to kind of talk about attribution windows for a second because it's something we've been asked about. Something that's on our roadmap actually, but it's not something that's technically native within TripWhale right now. And what that means is most of you are familiar with Facebook 2 years ago, 28-day click, 7-day view, meaning that if a customer clicked on an ad and made a purchase within 28 days, it would get attributed back to the original ad. For Triple Whale right now, natively, we're kind of at a infinity attribution window to an extent. But one way to kind of get around the lack of an attribution window to choose from is to select click date. So let's say that you felt confident you wanted to make decisions based on a 7-day click attribution window. Instead of using event date, which means the order happened between 8/17 and 8/24, you could choose click date instead. And this will change up your data set to show you orders in which a click occurred between 8/17 and 8/24, which essentially the click and the event happened, right? So these are only click and events, clicks and purchases that happened in that date range. And this is a 7-day date range. So if you wanted to expand that a bit more to like 10 days, you could do that as well. And just try to review click date versus event date data in those different time frames. So again, hopefully I don't get egg on my face and this loads for me. But that is, and I don't see any questions yet, but essentially that's a way to get around a true like attribution window selection in Triple Whale. Hopefully everybody feels good about that. The other thing I would note is that feel good about that. Okay. If anybody else sees other here, just know that's I work with a lot of customers that reach out to customer success about this. If you see this, it means there's some sort of mismatch in mapping. And I'm sorry if I'm getting too in the weeds. Some people will appreciate this and others will think that I'm crazy. But what we do is when you connect Facebook or Google, any of these direct integrations, we are calling the API and pulling in all of your campaigns, ad sets, and ad data. Then you're using dynamic UTMs in your traffic. And so what Facebook does is they send us, say, like an ad ID and a campaign name and an ad set ID. All these different things are being sent along dynamically with your traffic. Now, let's say you make a change to your campaign name or your ad set name or any of that. When we receive the UTMs with the dynamic information, we ping Facebook's API. And if for whatever reason we can't match the data that we got with Facebook's API, we're going to throw it into other because we know it came from Facebook, but we're not exactly sure what ad set or ad it's associated with or campaign for that matter. So always be sure you check into the journey. And you'll see something like here, the campaign is TBT, order audiences, and I don't see a TBT here. So maybe everything was changed to top of funnel, for example, the TOF here. But because that change didn't happen prior to this event happening, it got sent to other. So it looks like they're doing a great job of using their UTMs based on this information. But let's say you look into your orders and they're in other, and you see source is Facebook, but this other information is missing. That's a tall tale sign that UTMs are messed up in some form or fashion. So we're always happy to help you guys ensure those are right. The other great thing about the column selection is you can do that as well in Triple Whale by clicking the URL parameters. I'll move this up a bit here. And so if you were to drop down any of your ads, we will show you exactly what we're pulling in from the URL parameters box in Facebook. So just make sure you're checking that, make sure it's uniform. There could be old ads you haven't updated, for example. So just double check that when you get a chance. Okay.
And Logan, that can also occur too if unfortunately sometimes someone will delete a campaign or an ad set or an ad. And so if they do that as well, then that will put them into the other because we can't find that. So that potentially is what happened there, or someone just changed the name of the campaign, ad set or ad. Doesn't necessarily need to be just like a clean delete. So keep that in mind whenever you're making changes like that to your ad platform.
Yeah, good call. Cool. All right. So now let's talk a bit about Inquire Labs, which is now fairing triple post-purchase survey, um, and how that data is displayed, used, and can benefit you. So we talked about post-purchase surveys in the beginning of this. So for anyone who's using an existing tool like Inquire, which is now fairing, or even K&O, No Commerce, we're going to launch an integration with those folks within the next 2 weeks. So if you're already using one of those platforms, fantastic. There'll be a direct integration. And then if you don't have anything yet, I implore you to sign up for the Triple Whale post-purchase survey because it's free. So the way that this works for attribution is that in two ways. One, we have a customer who ordered, and we do not have any sort of click tracking on them. I would like to say in a perfect world, that means that they came through directly to your website. If we don't have any kind of click tracking, they can map back to a channel source or an ad, and they respond to your survey that they saw you on Facebook. We will then take that order and the conversion value and add it here to the line item, Triple Whale post purchase survey, the one order for $100, and it will be nested into your Facebook page here, your table. The second way is through kind of deduplication and a mix of triple attribution. So the first one on deduplication, if the customer clicked on a Facebook ad, places their order, and then finishes their survey response with Facebook ad as their response, that order is only going to be counted one time. And we're going to give the credit, of course, in the journey to the ad of which we found the click from. Now, if you were to click into their customer journey, you will also see, just like you'll see in Inquire Labs here, you will see a post-purchase survey submission, and you'll actually see what they responded with. So even though, let's say that we saw the ad, we're going to show you the ad click, and we're going to show you the survey response, which is great. Now, the third method, which I wanted to discuss, was triple attribution. If the customer clicked on a Facebook ad and then in their survey respond, they found out about you via TikTok, we will actually give credit to Facebook via the ad click, and we will also give credit to TikTok via the triple post-purchase survey line on the TikTok page. So those are the methods we're using to help improve attribution through the zero-party data capture. So if anyone has any questions about that, feel free to ask us. But I thought that might be important for you to understand how we're mapping it and how deduplication works to ensure that the conversion value you see here is as accurate as possible. Anything I didn't cover there, Sonder?
No, you did. You did a great job. I think overall, since we're 12 minutes away, I think, I think one thing I really want to touch on are the different attribution windows. That's one thing I didn't cover when I'm looking to optimize. So like I started off saying, I really want to understand the story behind attribution and the customer journey. So that's another thing I'll definitely toggle with, is at the top are different attribution models by going through first click. Yeah. So
so tell the audience a bit, tell like our folks who are listening, like let's say in triple attribution, for example, there's $83,000, right? So if we move to a first click model, it looks like we're actually dropping 20K in revenue here, meaning that person clicked on this ad first before making their purchase. And so that means there's essentially $20,000 where a customer clicked on something else before Facebook. So what does that mean for them and their buying decision?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think this is great. And I think, I mean, obviously we're looking more micro within Facebook here, but I think this is very helpful from a macro level as well to see first click, where are customers coming from initially. And then obviously now, since we're in Facebook, we're able to see what campaigns are driving the most first click value or revenue, and looking at that CPA number again based on that first click. So I really, really like first click. I know a lot of us became accustomed to last click, but first click really just tells the story of what is getting someone to the website and leading to a purchase. And so then what I want to understand, let's click on last click now. So we're at a 64,000 first click.
and 54 on last.
So interesting. Yeah. So yeah, so once again, I'm just understanding then like this is probably going to be more retargeting, and you can still have a customer who shows up in first click and last click. If that is like they see a Facebook ad, they click on it and they purchase immediately, like they're going to show up in first click and last click in that example. So this is just helping me understand. And then Logan, let's go to linear now. So once again, this is super helpful if you're within a campaign or even looking at this overall view. So there you go. So there's all performance, and then do the triple whale again. I think that was that 84,000 before?
Yeah. But you got to understand there is additional revenue here coming in from the survey, which is only available in triple. So there's probably 17K wrapped up here, maybe 18K.
Okay.
So yeah, we're around like 67 or so just on click basis in the triple attribution. And then on like linear, what we're doing is, this would be important probably on Facebook by itself. If you think that there's a lot of revenue tied up in customers clicking between campaigns. But one thing we didn't really cover yet was linear paid on all channels. So come to this view and look at linear paid, because if they're, let's say your brand, the one thing I did talk to a customer about, which is I felt like it was pretty insightful talking about, was we want to go test TikTok, and we're going to go ahead and give TikTok a budget of 5K a month or something along those lines. Is TikTok working for us? Well, one interesting thing here, using like orders overlap and using linear paid, if we do this and we look at TikTok, so 19 orders had an overlap. Now, Attentive and Klaviyo are perfectly fine because those folks are coming to the site and signing up for our offer. But if you saw that there was overlap, like this is not too big, but let's say there was 50% overlap with Facebook. Well, TikTok is really an assisting channel at that point. They're not exactly driving new customer impressions or a brand new audience. So if you're trying to test a new channel, I would implore you to use overlap or use the linear so that you can understand, like, are customers clicking between channels? And when we give them all equal credit, what are they really worth to us from a conversion value standpoint? So that's kind of how I use linear.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's super helpful too. Um, when you're looking, let's say, at like maybe YouTube. So you invest in YouTube to drive like a lot of top of funnel traffic to your website to then feed your retargeting. I think that's like a very helpful view that you just showed, Logan, into like understanding just the different initiatives behind it. So maybe you would actually judge the success of those types of campaigns by looking at a linear as well as like a first click, because you're trying to drive that top of funnel traffic that way. So like really, I want to keep hitting on it because I think it's important. Attribution isn't a silver bullet. It really is like understanding the story behind what your customers are doing. And so that's why these different windows are so important, to be really understanding that entire journey.
Yeah. Yeah. I think just continue to play with it. I think the one thing I was able to do when I was media buying or kind of managing the marketing for the brand, because I was working directly with an agency too that did all of the creative and the button clicks, like making sure we were targeting the right folks. But this is part of my daily routine. So I think once you find a cadence here, I'm going to log in and I'm going to check Facebook, then I'm going to check all channels, and then I want to see my overlap. Find yourself a cadence there, flip between the models, flip between click date and event date, and then use that information to try to make decisions. And I think AJ would appreciate it if I told everyone that we're trying to use that type of cadence and that modeling for machine learning so that we can actually create recommendations for you. We can set up rules so that you don't have to do all this manual work any longer. You can log the changes you're making. You can make the changes maybe right in Triple Whale, and then we're going to use artificial intelligence and machine learning to kind of automate that for you in the future, which I think could be a really big unlock for our brands who would rather focus on building products or creatives, you know? Oh, you're muted right now. There you are.
Yeah. Thanks for the tease. Always love that. Yeah, that's actually was coming to mind for me as well. I'm so excited for what this will provide. So great tease, great hint. It's exciting.
Very cool.
Any questions that anyone wants us to answer?
Yeah, and I know we have a couple pre-populated, so I could probably start to cover some of that for anybody who's still around while chats or questions come through. So let me walk through some questions. I can't actually populate them on the screen, but I'll show you guys what we have. One question was like, how accurate is the Triple Whale Pixel? Again, as Sandra mentioned, we feel pretty confident around our 99.7% accuracy on tracking clickable purchases. Again, I think the post-purchase survey tools are good for where we either have direct traffic that we couldn't attribute back to a referral source or UTMs. But when we're tracking traffic from your ads, I feel very confident that we're able to kind of capture that journey that we've gotten on them. Looking through here, we talked about optimizations. We talked about some best practices, when to cut an ad. I think go back. We're going to have this video back on YouTube, but I think go back and revisit the section that Sandra talked about, setting your benchmarks. I think you have to understand like ROAS is one element, but there's things that are built into ROAS, right? It's conversion value, it's spend. You're trying to target new customers. So try to understand what is your new customer cost per acquisition benchmark or goal that puts you at the level that you feel comfortable with. As I mentioned, you're either in a growth scale business where you're willing to take a hit on new customers for later profit, or you need to make profit today. So that's your benchmark. How much money do you need to make on each of these purchases? And if your ads aren't cutting it to that benchmark, that's when you're going to cut. Someone asked about setting goals, about like KPIs around revenue. I do want to let you know that you can go into tools and goals, and you can actually set goals around spend. You can set goals around revenue. So select these and set them for any given month. And then you can come here and track them. There's going to be a future too, where we'll blend all this together, where you can set goals. You can see the trend towards that goal. The activity feed is going to kind of become that in the future. We do have one person that was having an issue where they were seeing different data amongst team members. If you're on the call, please reach out via customer experience. We have a little live chat down here under get help. So make sure that you come here and chat us up, and we'll get back to you and make sure all of your data looks clean. And then right now, let's see, there's Klaviyo and Attentive. That might be the person, Rise, who is asking us about how to set it up, but make sure you have your UTM squared away. And then I can hopefully show you what a good Klaviyo setup would look like, which I don't have here. If you're seeing unknown, that means we're having an issue tracking back to the campaign level or flow level. So in the UTM settings, you can go to our knowledge base and look at this, but make sure you have source set up as Klaviyo, and then you're going to have UTM campaign. That needs to be set up as campaign name and flow name. And as long as you have that squared away, you'll see all of those listed here. I'd also say, as a little bit of a hack, I used to always put SMS at the end of my campaign or flow names when it was an SMS campaign or flow. So label those here, and then you can filter by SMS. So if they were existing here, you could see all SMS campaigns and flows coming from Klaviyo. And then, of course, if you're using Attentive, do the same thing there. Let's see. All right, I think that's all that was there. Let's see if we have any. We have one question here.
We had one question come in. Yeah, if you want to show that on the summary page, Logan.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So if you haven't set up benchmarks yet, come into Triple Whale. If we don't have your industry, you're going to see like a blank screen here that asks you to select your industry. That's just so that we can make sure that we have, one, it populated for your account, and two, we're kind of enriching the data. Not shared anywhere else. It's all anonymous. But if you click on the cog here in the upper right, click on customize your summary, you'll see that I have it listed here. But if we didn't, you would scroll down to benchmarks and click the plus button. And then this is not, just so everyone understands, this is not your benchmarks. These are aggregate data from other peer groups. So you can choose your industry. You can keep AOV and spend to all, but if you wanted to, let's say, take out the major spenders who are probably creating outliers and say CPMs, go ahead and choose the spend level that you're at. And then you can see how that data differs for that spend level that's most accurate to your business. And then, of course, you can change your date range to see this on a broader scale. Sweet.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining, everyone. Logan, awesome job. Thanks for showing us the pixel section. Like Logan said, it's our most popular section right now. So yeah, super excited to review that today and show you how we like to use it as marketers and hopefully where you can use it as well. So hope everyone has a great rest of the week. Sign off from you, Logan.
Thanks everybody for joining. Hit us up in the chat if you need any help. Chat in Triple Whale, click get help. We're there for you. We appreciate everyone.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks everyone.